The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists just moved their Doomsday clock up by 30 seconds. They say it's now 2 minutes to midnight, perilously close to a man-made apocalypse. Now, the scientists are blaming, among other things, President Trump's comments supporting nuclear weapons, as well as his war of words with North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
Hello, my friends. Jacob is here. It's Friday, right? That's a good thing for a lot of people. Weekend is coming. Gonna have some fun, hopefully, with the family. Hope you're gonna get out and live your lives and not just sit around and be grumpy all the time. Well, listen, we got some great news. Interesting news. Major discovery, actually, just took place in Israel. That's right. In a cave, the Macleod cave, on Mount Carmel, I guess the western side of Mount Carmel, they found a jawbone, which basically it messes up the whole timeline. You know, this the lie they feed us, the evolution lie, right? That we came from monkeys, right? Well, this is all kind of connected, but this messes up their timeline once again because it places modern man a lot farther back than they thought. So in other words, you know, where they say that the cradle of civilization was in Africa, and well, now they found this jawbone, these human remains, which I think is incredibly significant because there were 7 teeth that were fine and 1 incisor, like 8 teeth on this jawbone. 7 is usually a number known for completion, and 8 being a new beginning, which is kind of cool because we're in 2018. I know it sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but there's something to it, spiritually speaking, which is why I'm talking to you about it right now. So, the cool thing about this discovery is that we really have to rethink the timeline of modern man. A small bit of a human jawbone was found in Israel and has been dated between 177,000 and 194,000 years ago. Before this discovery, most evidence suggested Homo sapiens hadn't left the African continent until about 122,000 years ago. And just so you know, there's been one after the other we're finding remains now that are making these scientists rethink their evolution. They're finding evidence of skulls that are just like ours today, far back beyond what they thought was possible. And now that they found this jawbone in Israel, I couldn't help but think that there was more to it. There's a lot of symbolism to everything in life. Like I talked to you about these breadcrumbs that we're all given. You know, that the mysteries of everything is right there in front of us. And sometimes, if you're open to it and you're seeking and you're looking for the truth, no matter what the cost, it'll start to present itself to you little by little, and then you start to put these pieces together, and it's an unfolding, right? It's an unfolding that's taking place. So I made a connection early on with this jawbone being discovered to Samson and the judges that I've spoken about a couple of times on the last couple of videos. My last video about Joshua and AI, I explained to you how I had come to this story and how I felt like there was a real urgency to getting it out to people, that we were in a time that I called the time of judges, because after Joshua dies, the judges take over. And so all of this kind of happening, after I'm meditating on this and I'm praying about this and I'm thinking about all this stuff and I'm thinking about how we really do need some great leaders, especially spiritual leaders, because I think a lot of people forget that it was the religious leaders of the day that actually had Jesus put to death, the way, the truth, and the life. It was the religious leaders of the day, the ones that, would tell you how to eat, how to act, and tell you how to get to God. The ones that were the authority. They were the ones that put the way to a true life, the way, the truth, and a life to death, the place of the skull in our thinking. In a literal sense, they were the literal religious leaders of the day that literally killed the Son of God. But in a spiritual sense, the way, the truth, and a life, which is in us, which is what it's all about. That's the hope of glory. That's what we're all supposed to be seeking after, right? To find out what it all means, to find the truth, and to be redeemed, and to come to the knowledge of the truth, and to know that you're more. That's ultimately the prize, right? But the truth that Christ, that Christos, was put to death at the place of the skull, because the religious leaders demanded it. And how do they go about doing it? They demand it, right? They tell you how to act, how to believe, and everything else. And they're closely tied with the political system, just like Herod back in the day that Jesus called a fox, or Pilate back in the day, always working with the religious system. It's this beast system that is, it's nothing new to people like you on this channel, but it's being revealed, and it's coming down as we speak, and it's becoming like a new thing to a lot of people. A lot of people are waking up, and they're realizing that the nonsense that's been going on, it's coming to an end. And that's what this show is about, and that's why I took the time to come on here. So let me tell you, a little while back there was another discovery which I thought was important, and I didn't talk about it. It was the discovery of a seal. They found a seal in Jerusalem. This was a big deal because this was the first seal of its kind. It was intact, and the inscription on it was to the governor of the city. Now, why I find this interesting is right around the time that this was discovered, I was preparing my video on Joshua and AI, which, if you've watched it, you know is more than just artificial intelligence. There's a deeper meaning to it all. Joshua was a governor, if you will, of the city. And so I found it interesting that first, we find the seal, and now, this jawbone. And the reason why I found it strange was because I was thinking a lot about Samson. Because in February, just a little while, Samson, the movie, this epic biblical story, is coming to the main screen. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence because I've been talking about this time of Judges, which is upon us, if you will. I know it sounds all like spooky and all religious and everything else, but maybe there's more to it, And really, if you think about it, let's peel back a layer. Let's go back about a year ago. The cover of The Economist magazine, where Trump was on that card, the judgment card, and he was wearing the crown. Remember, I covered this, and then we saw what a year we've had. And I'm not saying that Trump is our judge, but what I'm saying is that it's almost like all this stuff is being presented to us in a roundabout way, and it's like, well, we got to wake up and pay attention. When you see the sky is red, you know that it's going to be a beautiful day. When you see the clouds get dark, you know that the storm is coming, right? So you add it all up and you start to see that, well, perhaps judgment has come. Perhaps that's why we've seen all of these scandals revealed, one after the other, after the other, after the other, right? And now, just my last video was about the secret society and the government that's being revealed. All of these things, I think it's interesting, and I think more is coming, and that's really. That's really, because I'm a storyteller, I'm a writer, I'm an author, and I like to write the story. I like to talk about things as I see them going down and say, well, I could see it going this way. And many, many, many times, like many people like myself out there that are interested in seeing the bigger picture, they've been pretty accurate. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Samson, and I want to talk to you about why this jawbone that was discovered in this cave, which the co-lead researcher, Professor Israel Hershkovitz, told BBC News the discovery of this jawbone would fundamentally alter the ideas of human evolution, where we have to rewrite the whole story. Isn't that something? Now, if you think about spiritually speaking, perhaps the evolution now that we need to be concerned with is that we are, in fact, children of an infinite being or an infinite source, God, whatever you want to call it. That's how we need to start looking at things. But how can we do that when we have a whole system that's built to keep us brainwashed and thinking that we're miserable little slaves, where you have a religious system that tells you have to believe this way or that way or else, and you have so many different directions to go that how could you possibly find, your way? You can't talk, a Buddhist can't talk to a Catholic can't talk to a Jew can't talk to a Muslim can't talk to a Christian, an evangelical can't talk to a Baptist can't talk to a Pentecostal can't talk to a Jehovah's Witness. Do you get my point? A Jehovah's Witness can't talk to a Mormon can't talk to a Quaker. Nobody, really. And unity is what it's all about. There's only one truth. And yet, so many people claim it. So perhaps we do need to reevaluate. So how are we going to do that when we have so much nonsense interference with the government? We have so much nonsense interference with religion. We already got enough of the cares of the world on our plate to actually find the truth and to move on. Well, perhaps this jawbone gives us some insight into what's coming. Judgment indeed. So let me get into Samson, okay? So basically the story about Samson, where I'm picking up, it's chapter 50. It's a cool story. You probably know Samson, guy with the long hair, super strong, right? He was a judge. And remember Delilah, right? She was always trying to figure out, hey, what makes you so strong? Tell me. Because they wanted to get to the source of him so they could break him down. But I'm not really even going to get into that story. Because let's talk about Samson being all of us, right? The us that we know that we are, but haven't yet found, if you will. The Christ in you us. So what happens in 15 is it's time for the harvest, okay? Now, it's interesting because I've been talking about harvest time and how we're approaching that time where the light's going to shine, right? And we're all going to start waking up. Well, it's harvest time. So what happens is Samson comes on the scene. He's excited, and he's going to marry the girl of his dreams, right? Well, he gets there, and he finds out that the father, married that daughter off. He doesn't get to marry him. He's like, you can marry this one instead. So he kind of got tricked. Jacob had a little problem with that, too. He wanted to marry Rachel. He fell in love with Rachel, but he gets to Laban, and Laban got him drunk and everything else and tricked him into marrying her older sister who had bad eyesight, and that's a whole other story. But the fact of the matter is, in both cases, you get tricked into marrying the wrong bride, if you will. And that's happened today because of religion. Religion has convinced so many people to follow after the wrong one. So what happens is Samson sees that everybody's after, if we're looking at it in spiritual eyes, right? It's not really just about a literal bride. Samson's a picture of Christ. Well, the bride would be, the one he's supposed to marry, but tricked into marrying somebody else. He's angry. So what does he do? He goes and he goes out and since it's harvest time, he grabs all these foxes. He gathers how many is it? 300 or something foxes. And he ties So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail. So he basically grabs these foxes and he ties them up in pairs by their tail. Okay? Weird story, right? 300 of them. And then he basically takes a firebrand and he's like a torch or whatever, and he puts it smack dab in the middle of the tails, lights it on fire, and then he lets the foxes just run. And they run through the whole field, during harvest time, burn it all down to the ground. But the foxes, Don't let the little fox spoil the vine. Everything in Scripture has a deeper, significant spiritual meaning. So the fox really wasn't a literal fox that Samson was grabbing and tying their tails together, because in Scripture, the tail of anything is a lie. The head is the wise, the tail is the lies. The fox is the Pharisees, right? Jesus said, go tell Herod that fox. He was speaking of the Pharisees, the religious leaders, the government. Samson comes on the scene and he ties their lies together and he strikes a fire in it and it burns the field down and people wake up and they realize, we've been tricked. And that's what I think we're about to find. I think the next big thing to fall, I think the next big scandal that has to be revealed has to come in the religions of the world. I think big name pastors and priests and imams, I think all the like, across the board, rabbis, them all, gurus, every one of them, YouTubers. I think there's a fire that's been lit. And I think the truth is about to be set free. And I think people are going to start to see that they are more than they know. And they don't need to go here or go there or send their money or do this to find the truth and be set free. So that all kind of came to me out of this jawbone that was found. Because I found it strange that, the jawbone was found in a cave in Israel. And Samson, before using the jawbone of the ass to destroy 3,000 of, the enemies of God, the Philistines, he was in a cave as well. A cave called Etam, which is, that's another story and another wonderful allegory for us to all to learn from. But you start adding all this stuff up, you start looking at everything through spiritual eyes. And I got to tell you, it's exciting because that means that life is like this puzzle. And we can actively try to put these pieces together and have a lot of joy in doing so. Whether it's true or not, whether, we're going to start in about, maybe a couple of months or so, or, we start hearing about these big name this and these big name that's, and we start going, oh, I can't believe this person. I can't believe that person. When we start to hear all of the, when that fire's been lit, and they're going to come and they're going to look for the real Samsons of the world. They're going to look for the real people that are out here, that are seeking truly and only desire to inspire others to do the same, because there is a heaven, a new heaven, if you will, that will be revealed to us all. And all we got to do to get there is seek it. And that's why you should be excited, because it doesn't matter what's your station in life. All that matters is you are more than you know. And the only way to get there is to start talking within. Don't go here or there. Don't go to that fox. You tell that fox, I perform my miracles, and on the third day I'll rise again. I think that's what Jesus told him. Could be wrong. But hey, look, I'm not Rain Man when it comes to the scriptures. I love each and every one of you. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope you have the best day ever. And don't believe all the things that you're told, because it doesn't take very long. How long are they teaching about evolution? Now all of a sudden they got to rewrite the story completely. I hope you rewrite it with me. Love you guys. Please do subscribe, share it around, tell your friends, and don't forget to buckle up, because the roads are going to get up and down. It's going to be crazy. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.